Exemplified in the Last Supper is the fact that, now this is a rather difficult question, and the difficulty lies in the understanding of what exactly the passage is asking us. A key phrase or a key word here is exemplified. What we need is basically something which is deducible, a fact which is deducible, which is exemplified, which is suggested by the Last Supper. We see that at least three of the options they talk about, or at least two of the options they talk about the Lord and his apostles. This is a reference to the fourth paragraph. This altogether is a question that depends on the not the fourth paragraph, the fifth paragraph. This question overall depends on the fifth paragraph itself. Let's look at the options. Option A says the Lord is addressing his apostles with a clear purpose. Now we see that the Lord addressing his apostles is mentioned here. The Lord sits ever so quietly while the apostles rise in reaction to what the Lord had just announced. It is rather obvious that Leonardo chose the critical moment after the Lord had stated, "Verily I say unto you that one of you shall betray me," because of the emotions that evolve in this specific scene. So in this, we realize that the Lord is addressing his apostles. That is true, but we don't have any reference to him doing so with a clear purpose. What was the purpose behind it? It is not known exactly. In all probability, this is true. Yes, if the Lord is making the statement, it must have been with a clear purpose, but that is something which is outside information, which we don't have given in the passage itself. So A is incorrect. Option B says a meal gathering is shown as surcharged with anticipation. Yes, a meal gathering is shown, but we also don't have any direct references to a meal gathering. We only have the reference to the word supper, which again might mean anything. It might have an allegorical meaning. So is it actually a meal gathering? We are not sure. Then again, we see that surcharge with anticipation is also not given to us. What this passage tells us, what this paragraph tells us, is that the Lord sits ever so quietly while the apostles rise in reaction to what the Lord had just announced. It is rather obvious that Leonardo chose the critical moment after the Lord had made this statement because of the emotions that evolve in this specific scene. So it's not that we are talking about anticipation. Again, anticipation is quite possible because there might be anticipation against this particular statement. But does that necessarily again mean that there was anticipation? Is it referenced in the passage? There's no direct reference to anticipation itself. It just says emotions. So we are not sure exactly what emotion is being talked about. So still this option has part of it which is based on assumption, based on outside information. So B can be eliminated. Option C tells us the Lord and his apostles are gathered for a momentous moment in their lives. Yet again, there's some distortion in this. We see that there is a reference to a momentous moment in their lives that is mentioned here. It is rather obvious that Leonardo chose the critical moment after the Lord had stated. The Lord had made this proclamation, made this revelation that one of the apostles was going to betray him, as we see from the statement given. So the Lord was there for a momentous moment in his life. But the apostles, were they gathered for a momentous moment in their lives? Did they know that this would be a momentous moment? In all probability, they were only there for the meal. It is the proclamation made by the Lord that makes it a momentous moment. So his apostles are gathered, that we cannot exactly say. Now, we see that on the basis of this, we can eliminate C, but the elimination of A, B, and C, especially B and C in particular, can be quite a stretch. We're saying that it's based on quite a bit of inference. There is a better reason to eliminate these options. Let's look at D first, and then we see how better we can eliminate this. Option D says the viewers can recognize the biblical scene. This is absolutely true. We see it in these lines. though the way Leonardo allows its viewers to identify the scene from a specific point in the Bible adds to the importance and significance of the painting. He does allow the viewer to recognize the scene by the gestures of both the Lord and the apostles. It is also stated that it is rather obvious that Leonardo chose the critical moment after the Lord had made the statement because of the emotions that evolve in this specific scene. So there are repeated reference to the viewers being able to recognize, or the possibility of the viewers of this painting to recognize the biblical scene. Yes. Is this the perfect answer? Yes, it is. Why? Because it connects with the question. It answers the question in particular. It tells us what fact is exemplified in the Last Supper. So now we go back to options A, B, and C. A, B, and C. We don't need to find whether something is outside the premise or not, whether there is any reference to clear purpose, anticipation. This might be a little difficult to understand, more difficult than finding references such as clear purpose, such as meal gathering, such as anticipation, such as apostles are gathered for a momentous moment. But once we understand this, it makes this question much easier. It makes the elimination of these wrong options much easier. When we look at options A, B, and C, the Lord is addressing his apostles, a meal gathering is shown, the Lord and his apostles are gathered. All of these are talking about things that are depicted in the Last Supper. We are not asked what is depicted in the Last Supper. What is the painting about? What is the content of the painting? No. What is a deduction that can be made? What is a fact that can be deduced from the Last Supper? What is exemplified in the Last Supper? We realize that on that particular aspect, options A, B, and C are very close to each other because they talk about what is featured in the painting. D is talking about something that is significant in relation to the painting. And so we find that D, by that also, if we didn't understand any of that, if we had that kind of a shortcut in mind, we would see that A, B, and C are similar, D is different. So in all probability, D is the only possible answer. It's a bad thing to do, use a shortcut like that. It works in this question. It might not work in another question. It might cause us to fail spectacularly at answering other questions, but at least in this question, it makes sense. So we realize that the option that answers the question is only option D. So that is the correct answer.